Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Tea with Kimberly. Please grab a cup of tea, a journal, and pen as we continue our journey through midlife. Okay, like we're going to tap into just nuggets of it, I should say. And our last episode, I talked about finding joy on the journey. Now, today, I want to talk a little bit about cultivating resilience. Okay, and I have my notes over here. So if you're like, what are you like? Why are you looking? I'm a note person. But this idea of cultivating resilience, right? Because resilience is such an important piece of our ability to keep showing up. So if this is useful for you, if you consider yourself in midlife or around midlife, please tune in. So, how do we cultivate resilience and how do we take care of our emotional well being? And, one of the things I want to start with is embracing flexibility. Okay, so what I mean by that is life is going to throw all sorts of things your way. I mean, there are going to be hormone shifts, there's going to be brain fog, there's going to be um, challenging joints. I want to say aching, but you may not have aching joints yet, but ailing joints, challenging joints, joint issues, aches and pains that maybe weren't there when you were younger. There's going to be so many challenges too. And the fact of us just recognizing like we're not as quick maybe as we used to be. We don't have the energy maybe that we used to. So what is it? How do we deal with all of this? And one of the big things that comes up with this and in one style of therapy, ACT, which is acceptance commitment therapy, they talk a lot about psychological flexibility, but the importance of it not being rigid, of things having to be a certain way. Because I will say, whenever I found out, like, for example, that I needed a third hip surgery on the same hip, I found that out earlier this year. And I was like, really? I was quite shocked that that would be necessary. And then it was kind of like, well, you know what? It is what it is. It's a quick surgery, and I'll get through it once I'm through the adult ballet festival. And so, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm not going to say I like this. I'm not going to say I'm glad this is happening. I'm looking forward to it. And yet, I'm not going to fight it, right? So, how to practice that sense of acceptance. And I'm not going to say this is always easy or this is always possible, but having that sense of flexibility of just recognizing like life is just going to throw all sorts of things your way. I think about too when we're at the airport and a flight is delayed, how frustrating it is, or things are canceled and or we miss our connection, these things that are just really inconvenient and people get so worked up. And I feel for them, especially if like, they miss their connection and the next flight isn't for days. Who knows, right? Like things like this are frustrating. And yet it's not so much the event itself, it's the meaning that we're giving it. And our response to it is so, so important on helping us stay emotionally regulated. So, again, this place of being adaptable and flexible can be so, so helpful because otherwise, it just like everything can feel like the end of the world. So, I have here recognizing, of course, that change is a constant part of life. Things are always in flux, which is so challenging. And then also being adaptable, right? Whenever we face new challenges and, coming to this place of acceptance, if that's helpful or if that's needed, of just recognizing there's only so much that we have control over. And really, it's just ourselves and the way we react to things that we have control over. So as we move more and deeper into midlife, how can we practice this sense of flexibility of just recognizing that these things come our way, and all we can do is choose how we respond to them. Not easy. The next one is the importance of having a really solid support system. So, as we get older, and you really read about this with regard to seniors, is the importance of having a strong community. So, thinking about who is your community, like who are your go to people? And does it feel like in midlife, right? There's lots of changes. There's transitions where people are moving away, people are passing away, so many changes that happen. And so, are we replenishing whenever we lose people in our lives? And how can we cultivate like-hearted community? People who we really feel seen with and we enjoy being with, and we leave feeling lighter and we feel inspired. And, sometimes it's just like, okay, I'm going to join a book club, or I'm going to start a book club, or I'm going to join a knitting group, right? Or I'm going to start going to adult ballet classes and meet people there, or really connect deeper with my family, whatever it might be for you. Just thinking, how do we build a support network? And I have here the importance of sharing experiences. Because I will say, whenever I'm in experiences with others, like the two ballet groups that I was with this year, with Washington Ballet and then with the Adult Ballet Festival through Broche, those are really important communities where you cultivate a sense of connection. And then there's also, of course, people who I've met through the yoga studio days, and people that I'm in touch with from that. And, just thinking for you, what are your communities? Do you have them? And is there a way to cultivate or build on them? And again, not because we need tons of people in our lives, but we need a few who we really like feel a connection with. And the other thing that I want to mention as we think about cultivating resilience in this stage of life is practicing self compassion. So, I talk a lot about self compassion, and it's all based on the work of Dr. Kristen Neff, Neff. So, you may be familiar with her. I believe her website is self-compassion.org. But the idea is treating yourself with a sense of kindness and the same level of kindness as you would treat a dear friend. And so thinking to yourself as you notice how you're speaking to yourself, how you're treating yourself, and is there a way for you to be kinder and gentler? I like to think of almost like we're petting ourselves, right? That we're just like, or holding ourselves tenderly. And this is actually something that can calm the nervous system, right? It's like a little bit of tapping. It's called the butterfly. But what are some things like in the moment when you just find yourself elevated, right? And escalating, that you can just tune in and offer yourself just that little dose of compassion. Also, hand on heart can do that, and really connecting with your breath. My hand on heart, I do this a lot, and I just find it to be really grounding and calming and nurturing. And sometimes I don't even realize, it's not even conscious that I'm doing it. So, what is it for you that would help you embrace a dose of self-compassion? And it could just be that you listen to, some self-compassion meditations, right? Maybe it's easier for you to feel guided through it, and that's great too. But as we think about this whole idea on becoming more resilient and recognizing that change is constant, it's always going to be coming our way. What can we do to care for ourselves in that process? And that definitely helps us as we are navigating midlife and all the hormones. Right. Thank you so much for tuning in.